All right, so I prophesied that we're going to have a summer from hell, if not a fall from hell and from grace this year, and we're already in this year, 2022, and it's not going to be pretty from here. But in addition to the other things that are war drums that are being beat and the rise of Gog and Magog, we're going to have political upheaval like we've probably never seen before when the trials and the indictments begin to drop regarding Trump, his Trump Enterprises, the civil suits against his children and others, and then the January 6th insurrection committee. That's all going to happen towards the end of the summer. And, someone asked me the other day and said, Pastor Manny, I haven't heard you say anything about the truckers up in Ottawa with Canada. And what's your opinion on that? As they held Canada captive for 2 weeks. And then, of course, Trudeau, who was alleged to be the son of an adulterous relationship of Fidel Castro, was able to get legislation passed to be able to freeze the bank accounts of the truckers and to seize their property, their trucks, and then throw the rest of the protesters in jail, that were both blocking the bridges and access to Canada's major political events. And so that has been pretty much broken up for the time being. The problem is that it is my suspicion. Now, I don't know. I have any word on this. I don't want the FBI, CIA, Secret Service, anybody come knocking on my door, so I don't know. I don't know this to be sure. And I don't want to say I heard it on the grapevine. I heard it on the drums. I don't want to say that either. But I believe that Trump is organizing to deploy the truckers along being assisted with Fox News, Newsmax, America One News, and other outlets to stop the process of trials going forward, run out the clock of the January 6th committee. Now listen to this very carefully. I don't want the FBI knocking on my Secret Service, knocking on my door and say I've got something to do with it, I'm supportive of it. I'm just a reporter. I'm just being the quintessential James David Manning. But I believe that what Trump is going to do is that he's going to deploy the truckers to stop the January 6th committee, clog up Washington, D.C., clog up the courts, and until the 2022 election in November, when he can take back the House and the Senate before the trucks will begin to be moved, which will also clog up the food supply. The roads will be clogged. Summer will be hell on wheels because if you can't travel, and Trump has the potential to do that. I don't know. I'm just telling you what my logic says to me. Don't come knocking on my door saying I'm a conspirator or that I'm in support of this. Come knocking on my door up here in Harlem. I'm just telling you what I believe. And you saw what they did. They locked Canada up for 2 weeks. Now, you say, well, if it only lasted 2 weeks in Canada, it'll only last 2 weeks, and Secret Service, if you will, the people in the Army Reserves, the National Guard, can get ready for all this. I don't think so. At any rate, I'll be back to talk a little bit more about that. But I got a clip about what's happening with Trump, his daughter Ivanka, Don Jr., that Tish James, is it Tish James? Wishes to depose the three of them. I don't think they're going to get anything out of them, but a judge has ruled that they got to sit. And I'm not sure whether or not the appeal has been filed. I don't think they're going to win an appeal. I mean, this is a civil court. You can't, if the judge says you got to sit for a deposition, you don't want to do it, just take the Fifth Amendment. Anyway, Mr. Engineer, roll that clip on Trump, Ivanka, and Don Jr.
A judge this weekend swatted away the Trump family's attempts to dodge questioning from the New York Attorney General. The court ruled Thursday that Donald Trump and his children, Ivanka and Don Jr., must testify in the civil case involving the Trump Organization. This is a huge victory for the New York AG, who's been trying to depose key Trump family members for months now as she investigates whether the company misled lenders and insurers. Let's discuss now with someone who really knows the legal system, our CNN senior legal analyst, Elie Honig. He's a former federal prosecutor, and somebody who really knows Trump well, and that is former Trump biographer and CNN contributor Michael D'Antonio. Good to talk to both of you. Elie, let's start here. First of all, there's so many different cases, right? And trying to keep track of them all can be a bit confusing. Talk to us about this specific case and where it's going.
Yeah, on a big day yesterday. Now, it's important to understand there's really two separate investigations here happening in parallel to one another. There is a civil investigation being run by the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James. At the same time, there's a criminal investigation being run by the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, and Letitia James as well. Of course, a civil suit involves lawsuits and potential money damages. A criminal suit involves potential indictments and imprisonment. Now, the dispute that was resolved yesterday is on the civil side of things. Letitia James, the Attorney General, sent subpoenas to Donald Trump, his son Donald Trump Jr., and his daughter Ivanka Trump. The Trumps objected. They said these are improper, these are politically motivated. The Attorney General said these are necessary. I have a legitimate investigation. I have evidence. I need to talk to them. The judge sided with the Attorney General, so now the Trumps have to sit for sworn depositions.
And this comes down to numbers, right? This is essentially an allegation that the Trump Organization cooked the books, right?
Cooking the books is exactly right. We learned a really interesting tidbit here in a filing by Mazars, which is the Trump Organization's financial accountants. They put in a letter saying nearly a decade of the Trump Org's financial documents should no longer be relied upon. Essentially, Mazars dumped the Trump Organization, for lack of a better term. And really important, in the judge's ruling yesterday, he found copious evidence. Copious, that means a lot. I Googled it. Copious evidence of possible financial fraud. That's saying a lot from a judge.
Let's get Michael D'Antonio into the conversation here, because Trump has always, framed himself, Michael, as the expert on all things finance, taxes, his business, etc. Listen to this example.
Nobody knows a tax code better than I do, okay? I know it better. I'm the king of the tax code.
I know more formulas. I know more about tax abatements. I know more about taxes than any human being that God ever created.
I understand the tax laws better than almost anyone, which is why I am one who can truly fix them. See, I understand the tax code better than anybody that's ever run for president.
Of course, Trump also wrote The Art of the Deal. Did he know his way around accounting, or is this all an act?
Well, I think it's mostly an act, Anna. There is copious evidence as well that Donald Trump is always hyping both himself and his businesses. He would call it truthful hyperbole. The problem was a lot of this hyperbole found its way into his financial statements. So you've got a fellow who's sort of like the bank robber who then comes out of prison and says, I can teach all the banks how to protect themselves. That's his claim. But he's yet to be held accountable for any of the shenanigans that have gone on so far. And as Elie said, this Mazars filing indicating a decade worth of financial statements may not be accurate is a big sign that there's trouble ahead.
And just this week, in fact, when Mazars broke with the Trump Organization, Elie, he put out a statement almost immediately saying this, and I quote, "We have a great company with fantastic assets that are unique, extremely valuable, and in many cases, far more valuable than that what was listed in our financial statement." So, I mean, he seems to be implying that he knows exactly what his finances are and that he understands them. Could these words be used against him?
Yes, legally, this statement is a disaster. The defense here is going to be Donald Trump didn't know about the nuances. He had accountants, he had people handling that. Here he's saying, I knew it all.
Yeah, he knew it all. So you're like, okay, so let's depose him, right? Sure. So, Michael, that's where, this is all headed. The Trumps have been ordered to be deposed in the next 21 days. They could appeal, of course, but Donald Trump is no stranger to depositions. We all know, though, he does have an interesting relationship with the truth and facts. How do you see him behaving if he's deposed? Will he plead the fifth?
I think he'll plead the fifth many, many times. If Eric Trump's testimony is any indication. He did a deposition in the same prosecutor's investigation. He took the fifth more than 500 times. Now, this is from a family where Donald Trump has said, what are you doing taking the fifth if you're innocent? He's criticized people who take the fifth, so he now has a choice. Does he take the fifth and protect himself and protect his businesses, or does he try to cooperate, commit a lot of deception, which I think is inevitable for him? He can't not deceive people and then run into further trouble. It's a very bad situation for him to be in.
Elliot, it sounds kind of like a lose-lose for Trump. What is next here?
Yeah, so a couple things. First of all, he will be appealing. His lawyer has already said that. I think he's going to lose when it comes time for appeal. As Michael said, he's very likely to take the fifth. Look, any person has the constitutional right to take the fifth. It looks terrible, cannot be used against him in a criminal case, but can be used against him in a civil case. The judge will tell the jury, essentially, in a civil case, if a person takes the fifth, you can assume the worst about what they would have testified to.
Let me tell you why Trump said, and of course, I let you go through that whole this illegal woes and if you will, depositions and all that kind of stuff. But let me tell you why Trump said that the move by Vladimir Putin was genius. It's because he plans to do the same thing. Trump has a strong enough base of people who are diehard supporters of him. He can clog the American judicial system. He can clog the American economic system. He can clog the American. Trump can shut down New York. I mean, his supporters can shut down the George Washington Bridge. Or, Trump supporters can shut down the Holland or the Lincoln Tunnel. And even if it's only shut down for a day, it could bring such chaos. Trump has a loyal group of supporters that, can, what we saw happen in Canada can happen in America on steroids. Trump can shut down the 14th Street Bridge in Washington, D.C., Interstate 95. You need to get ready for a summer from hell. And I can tell you this, that Trump supporters not going to allow him to be, tried in court. I'm not saying he should not be. I just say that. Hell, everybody knows Trump has lied like a cross tie. He lied up and down Main Street. I'm not saying he shouldn't be on trial, but I don't think his supporters are going to let that happen. I think that January 6th was I don't have a word that this is definitely going to take place. I'm just trying to read the tea leaves. Trump see what Putin is doing, first of all, in surrounding the Ukraine and then moving in and taking sovereign territory under the pretense of peace, of peacekeepers. And Trump says it's genius, and he's got a major Fox News network backing him up. A division in America worse than the Civil War. I don't see the Trump supporters allow any court proceedings, to go against him. I just don't see it. I mean, some people will jump ship, that's to be sure, but mainly people's lives are tied up with Trump. If he goes down, they go down. It isn't so much now protecting Trump, which is he would be the spearhead of what we can see in the summer from hell. But really, it's the people themselves who are just not ready to have the liberals, the Democrats, the progressives, the LGBTQ, the bleeding hearts, whites, and the pension-nosed Negroes rule over them. They're just not going to have it. They would rather go to hell wearing gasoline drawers. They've had it with Obama. They've had it with all these black mayors. They've had it. They're Trump supporters, but not without cause. They would rather be dead and buried in their grave than to let these liberals, fascists, these Democrats, if you will, these Obamas of the world, the Al Sharptons, gain power to cripple their lifestyles, insult and injure their children, and so it's on. It's on, everybody. You know, you see they got the separatists over there in the Ukraine, right? That took a parcel of the land of Ukraine, and you know, Zelensky and everybody else has been afraid to try to move the separatists back across the Russian border. You know, here's what I'm just telling you what I see. I don't want nobody knocking on my door trying to arrest me, saying I'm a conspirator and I'm agitating for this and that and the other. I'm just reporting on what you can't get on the dung-head media reports of the CBS and MSNBC and CNN and all the rest, the Washington Post and New York Times and all that crowd. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm saying. And I'm telling everybody, get ready for a summer from hell and a fall from grace and a winter hotter than an erupting volcano. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. And don't you ever forget it.
chosen by God, a member of his royal family. I will succeed in all my studies